Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack a deeply fascinating historical parable about dignity, dependence, and, well, the hidden cost of wealth. It's a brilliant narrative straight from our source material that fundamentally challenges how we view power dynamics. We aren't just going to list off facts here. We're going to step into the story together and see how a seemingly simple event from the past holds incredibly urgent real-world lessons for us today. So consider this question for a second. Can money actually buy honor? Can it purchase someone's core self-respect? I think most of us would instinctively say, no way, right? Honor is internal. It's all about character. But to answer this properly, our source material transports us back in time well before independence, straight into the era of British rule in the subcontinent. It was a time of intense inequality, where your power was pretty much dictated by the uniform you wore and the language you spoke. But as we're about to see, the rules of human dignity, they sometimes completely defy the rules of an empire. Section 1, a resounding slap. Our story kicks off on a dusty, bustling street with a completely unexpected explosion of conflict. A junior British soldier gets into a seriously heated argument with a local Tonga driver, a guy who just drives a horse-drawn cart for a meager living. Tempers flare, and suddenly, the soldier, totally confident in his imperial authority, violently slaps the driver. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact moment where the story breaks away from the expected script. The Tonga driver doesn't cower, he doesn't run away. Instead, he immediately raises his own hand and delivers a resounding, forceful slap right back across the British soldier's face. It's a stunning moment of absolute equality. At this specific split second in time, despite the massive gap in their social and political standing, neither man was willing to yield his personal pride. They were, in the rawest sense possible, standing on completely equal footing when it came to their honor. Section 2, a surprising order. You can literally imagine the sheer panic and rage of the junior soldier. He rushes straight back to his senior commanding officer, totally expecting him to dispatch a squad to arrest the driver on the spot. But the senior officer just listens calmly, pauses, and then issues a counter order that leaves the junior soldier completely speechless. The senior officer looks at him and says, "Do not arrest him. Instead, you are going to go right back to him, you are going to apologize, and you are going to give him a very specific sum of money." The junior soldier is just bewildered. Apologize? To the guy who just struck him? It completely subverts all military logic of the era. Instead of punishing the retaliation with military force, the senior officer decides to deploy a completely different kind of weapon. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer life-changing magnitude of the amount. The senior officer orders the junior soldier to hand over 50,000 rupees. We really have to contextualize this, guys. Back in the pre-independence era, 50,000 rupees wasn't just a lot of money, it was an astronomical fortune. It was the kind of wealth that could buy sprawling estates and secure a family's future for generations. So the junior soldier follows orders, returns to the driver, apologizes, and hands over this massive fortune. And the Tonga driver, staring at a sum of cash he couldn't have earned in 100 lifetimes, actually accepts it. Let's look at how this unprecedented event completely rewrites the timeline of the driver's life. Almost overnight, his reality transforms. Day 1, he's a poor cart driver. Within a few weeks, he totally abandons his Tonga, buys a beautiful home, and uses that massive influx of capital to start his own sprawling business. Fast forward just a year or two, and he's no longer a humble worker on the street. He's a remarkably wealthy, powerful merchant. He's so affluent, in fact, that he now walks around with his own personal bodyguards. He has officially arrived. Section 3, the second slap. Time passes, and the dust seems to have settled. But one day, the senior officer calls that exact same junior soldier back into his office and says, "Hey, do you remember that Tonga driver? Go down to the crowded market right now and slap him." The junior soldier is terrified because, remember, the man is incredibly rich now, flanked by bodyguards. But the commander just smiles and insists. The order stands. So the junior soldier, probably trembling with fear, walks into the bustling center of the market. He spots the former Tonga driver, who is now this wealthy businessman surrounded by his security detail. The soldier walks right up to him, raises his hand, and slaps him as hard as he can in front of the entire town. The impact is so severe that the wealthy businessman actually falls to the ground. But here's the absolute climax of our story. The man stays on the ground. He doesn't strike back. He doesn't signal his bodyguards. He takes absolutely no physical or legal action. He just lowers his eyes in total silence. I want us to really sit with this mystery for a second. Why didn't he slap back? Why on earth would a man who fought back so fiercely when he was poor, vulnerable, and alone suddenly accept public humiliation now that he has wealth, power, and status? What changed inside him? He had every single resource at his disposal to crush that junior soldier, yet he chose to do absolutely nothing. Section 4. The price of honor. The junior soldier was just as confused as we are. Feeling this weird mix of triumph and total bewilderment, he returns to the base and asks, "How did you possibly know he wouldn't retaliate this time?" And this is where our explainer shifts from a historical tale into a really deep psychological breakdown. The senior officer is about to drop a chilling, calculated truth. So the crucial point is captured perfectly in the senior officer's chilling reply. He looks at his junior and says, "When you slapped him the first time, he had absolutely nothing in this world to his name except his honor. And to protect that honor, he slapped you back. But when you went back and handed him those 50,000 rupees, you didn't just give him wealth. You bought his honor. You purchased his dignity for 50,000 rupees. This perfectly illustrates the profound psychology at play here. When a man has nothing, his self-respect is his most fiercely guarded asset. He will literally fight to the death for his pride. But the exact moment he accepted that unearned, massive financial favor, his internal psychology shifted entirely. He traded his absolute independence for an invisible, crushing burden of moral debt. The wealth he enjoyed was gifted to him by the very institution that just struck him. Because his entire elevated status was built on their handout, he could no longer raise his head in defiance. His pride was completely subdued by his dependence. Section 5. Debt and slavery. This brings us to the core thesis of our source material today. You see, the story of the Tonga driver isn't just about some guy in the past. It's a masterclass in understanding the actual mechanics of debt and slavery in our modern world. It's about how financial leverage fundamentally alters human behavior and sovereignty. Let's move to and see how this built across completely different scales of society. The source material brilliantly maps this parable onto both the macro and the micro levels. On a massive global stage, we have sovereign countries borrowing heavily from giant global institutions. And then on the incredibly personal level, we have you sitting at home taking a loan from your own relatives. The scale is wildly different, sure, but the psychological mechanism of those 50,000 rupees, it is exactly the same. Think about how modern borrowing functions just like that historical bribe. When countries take massive loans from global institutions, they often have to accept oppressive, humiliating conditions that strip away their sovereign dignity. They basically lose the ability to fight back against bad policies. And on a personal level, taking money from a wealthy relative often leads to situations where they feel completely entitled to humiliate you, questioning your life choices, disrespecting you at family gatherings in ways you never even anticipated. In both scenarios, the money isn't just a transaction. It's a direct bargaining away of your self-respect. Which brings us to a highly pragmatic takeaway directly from the source material. It leaves us with this profound proverb to navigate our complex reality. It advises that if you truly must seek help, ask from someone who gives happily and tells no one. The core lesson here is about preserving your independence above everything else. It's a giant warning sign to avoid those unearned favors, those massive bailouts that look like salvation but actually act as psychological handcuffs. Because true freedom is the ability to look anyone in the eye without the invisible weight of their favors holding your head down. I want to end our explainer today with a single provocative question. In whose hands is your honor today? Seriously, look at your life, your dependencies, the favors you've accepted, and the strings attached to them. Are you still the person who can stand up and defend your pride? Or has a comfort, a loan, or a favor quietly purchased your ability to speak up? It's a really tough question, I know, but answering it might be the very first step toward reclaiming your true independence. Think about it. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.